Welcome into TYT's The Conversation. I'm your host, Adrienne Lawrence, and I have a host, or actually, I have a guest that you may be very familiar with. He is the host of Roaring a Fire, as well as executive director of Trial Lawyer Magazine. Welcome in, Farron Cousins. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. And right now, it's funny because we should be in a very quiet time, but not the case at all, especially when we have early voting going on in Georgia right now with their runoff election. And they've surpassed 2.5 million voters so far. That's wild. Why do you think people are coming out so much in this very small election?
Well, I think everybody understands what is at stake here. Both the Democrats and Republicans in Georgia know that this is it. You've got two senators here, two senators who, you know, have kind of skated by with some of the scandals they've been involved in, some of the things they've been accused of doing, some of the maybe not illegal, but totally unethical behavior they have engaged in. So a lot of people want to, make their voice heard now. Perhaps they sat out the original election here and they understand this is the chance. I mean, right now in Georgia, what are we looking at? I think 25%, a little over 25% of the voting population has already voted. That is absolutely massive here. The county, Muskogee County, I believe it was, just got the great court ruling yesterday saying that, or Tuesday, excuse me, saying that they cannot purge 4,000 voters. And that is an overwhelming Democrat county. So that's a big victory. The Republicans have tried relentlessly to suppress the vote in Georgia. They've tried to shut down certain polling places, and they've lost every step of the way pretty much so far. So a lot of great things have happened in Georgia, and I think voters across the board are just kind of energized, understanding if they don't want me to vote, then there must be a very good reason that I need to vote. So hopefully that maintains, and hopefully we get some good news out of Georgia next week.
Yes, that would be very much kind of a new year, kind of new America, new greatness, which would be wonderful. And you said energize, and that's something that we've kind of all been a little bit amped about recently, in part thinking maybe we'll get $600, maybe $2,000, who knows. But we know that Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, well, he blocked the bill to increase the stimulus checks to $2,000 because, as he said, there was no realistic path to quickly pass the Senate. So what are your thoughts on what the Kentucky Republican proffers?
I think it's really interesting here because obviously you've got Trump with his, demand, get $2,000, get them the 2,000. And, you've got a lot of Democrats, most of them, not all of them, unfortunately, saying, yeah, let's do 2,000. And then you've got the one guy, you've got Mitch McConnell, one singular human being, essentially backing up and preventing aid for hundreds of millions of Americans here. I mean, that alone tells you how broken our system is when one guy is able to do this. But Mitch McConnell, I think, is trying to play the long game here. He understands that he got everything he could possibly get out of the actual relief bill itself. So he already has what he is going to get. So he gets nothing out of this $2,000 deal that they're trying to work out. He doesn't have to worry so much about losing control of the Senate because, as we all know, it's not necessarily losing control of it. You've got the 50-50 split with Kamala Harris would be the tiebreaker, but you've got a lot more, I guess you would call them conservative Democrats in that Senate than you have left-leaning Republicans. So in a way, he may not be the majority leader if they lose these Georgia races, but the Republicans are still going to have a pretty tight grip. And all he has to do is wait it out for 2 years until the next round of midterms come, and then the Republicans stand a better chance of regaining control of that chamber, which would typically happen after the parties in the White House switch. Historically, that's what we end up seeing. So I think Mitch McConnell's playing that. He understands, look, I've already got what I want. I didn't get everything I wanted, but I've got all that you're going to give me. So why should I play your game? Why should I give these people anything? It doesn't bother me. I'm not up for re-election again, probably ever, considering, his age. He'll be retiring. So he's got 6 years to do whatever he wants with no consequences. Even if he loses that majority status, I honestly think it would only be for 2 years.
Yeah, and also not to mention that I think he's among the 10 most wealthiest senators out there.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to worry about a $2,000 check. That's tip money for him if he were generous enough to tip that amount. But we won't get into that, but we will get into more politics, which is a good thing. So let's kind of play hypothetical here. So in the event that, let's say Loeffler and Perdue were to win, how difficult do you think it will be for the Biden administration to make the significant changes that they need to make?
It's going to make it incredibly difficult for them to really do anything. So we would end up essentially having a repeat of the Obama years with regard to the Senate. We would see rather conservative, left-leaning conservative judges being appointed so that they could get through the Republican-controlled Senate. We would likely see probably no changes, I would imagine, with defense budgets and things like that. But any kind of real progressive change, and by progressive, I don't just mean progressive itself, but I mean progress, I don't know that it would be possible. You know, there really is so much riding on what is happening down there in Georgia. And I sincerely think that the people understand that, because it really will determine, at least for, again, 2 years, what we're able to do and what we're able to not accomplish. And unfortunately, if Republicans retain control of the Senate and obstruct, they're going to use that in the 2022 midterms to kind of gaslight people into thinking like, hey, look, he didn't do anything. Why would you put Democrats back? They're totally useless. They couldn't accomplish anything. We saw it play out that way during the Obama years, because they always leave out the part and nobody pays attention to the part where nothing got done because Republicans obstructed everything.
And the thing is, I wonder how long this can last, because when we are at a standstill and we're not going to have any progress as a nation at all, how long until the people actually rise up and bump these people out of their seats who've been sitting there for a long time and doing absolutely nothing other than, filling their coffers? And so in terms of the American uprising, how long do you think it would take for that to actually occur?
I think we're seeing it. I think we saw a good amount of primary challengers this year. Not all of them won, but it sent shockwaves through the parties. And I think in 2022, we're going to see a heck of a lot more primary challenges. And, one thing I've been doing a lot on my shows recently is explaining to everybody, listen, if you're complaining about change never happening, but you go to the polls and you vote for that same congressperson every 2 years, you're part of why nothing's happening. We have to demand better. We have to go out there and we have to support the primary challengers if they're better. Don't just blanketly support somebody but go out there and actively help these people. Go knock on doors, go make phone calls, go do whatever you can to help raise awareness for these challengers, for these other, people who have ideas, because that's one thing that's been sorely lacking in DC for far too long. Is we've got a lot of people serving that came there in the 90s. Chuck Schumer is a product of the 90s. Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and Pelosi herself as well. They're all from the 90s. And that was the last time I think any of them had any new ideas. So we're being ruled by these, septuagenarians and octogenarians. And unfortunately, we keep voting for them. So we do, in a sense, become part of the problem. Now, the primary challengers that we have seen be victorious, that's the change. And we need that on a bigger level. And that's, again, up to the people to understand it is on you. That part is on you. If you want something better, get it, make it happen with those challengers and, by helping to support in any way that you can.
Absolutely. And I think that, unfortunately, a lot of Americans, and it might just kind of be a worldwide thing, people aren't really all that big on change. They truly have to be disrupted to actually want to, dance with the devil that they don't know. And so unfortunately, we don't have as much change as we need, despite the fact that we are continually changing and evolving as a nation. But that is okay. And that's why you and I are here to have these conversations, to hopefully conjure into people to make change. So what do you think will be the most impactful thing that comes out of the Biden administration first?
I would love to see the student loan debt forgiveness. And he needs to use the Defense Production Act to get more vaccine out there, to get it produced and get it going. Those are two ways that Biden can score an early, succinct victory. And that's what he's going to need. I mean, with the way this election has turned out, with all of that, he's going to have to make sure that he gets a good, solid victory soon. So if he doesn't do that, you're going to let Republicans control the narrative. You're going to let them, kind of craft the way things are going to go. So if he wants to make change and he wants to kind of solidify some support behind him, he is going to have to do those victories. And again, it's the student loan debt and it's the Defense Production Act for the vaccine to get everybody, where we can get back to normal.
Well, I would appreciate that very much as someone who has like 3 or 4 advanced degrees. Getting rid of that student loan debt would be dope. And thank you so much for joining us, Farron. Where can they find you on social media?
All my social medias are at Farron Balanced. So Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Farron Balanced. And of course, youtube.com/The Ring of Fire.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.